Okay, great. And we're pretty much good to go. Was there any other department stuff that I wanted to make sure I mention? I don't think so. In the chat, I dropped a link. Christian's in design research and needs people to fill out their survey. So if you could take a moment and fill out Christian's survey, much appreciated. Because being in design research is a special kind of hell when no one fills out your survey, because then you have no data to work with and you can't start your project. It's a pain in the ass. So be kind and do a survey, and that will come back to you someday when you're a design research student. What else? I think that's it. So we'll get going. I already have my website open in VS Code. My website currently, I have it structured that I have an images folder because I thought my sidebar was just getting a little chaotic. So I made an IMG folder and started plugging my image files in there. That's something that's optional. You don't have to do that. You can do it. It's something I find if I start to have like, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images and I still have more on the way. Like it was getting crazy. So I just put them in a folder. This little star icon one is my favicon. And then my site has 4 pages, which is the amount that you're expected to have also. So my homepage, remember, has to be index.html. That's how the browser knows which page is your homepage. And if you go to the place your website lives, it'll open your website and not put the file name at the end of the URL, which is very nice. You have to name it index. It's non-optional. So that's your homepage. And then I have 3 subpages. My website example project is Roll HV, which talks about like roller skating stuff in the Hudson Valley. And so I have a page about roller rinks. I have a page about skate parks, and I have a page about trails. I prepared my home rinks and skate parks pages ahead of time and filled in their markup a good bit, but I don't have my trails done. So I'm going to kind of just like walk through the process of that again in case you haven't already finished your markup, in case it's feeling blurry in your mind. Some people learn better when they see it done. I thought that would be just a good refresher if you're having to edit your HTML code to kind of like remember how everything's supposed to be structured and how it works. Does that sound good? Cool. So I actually, in another tab, have my sitemap open because I'm grabbing my photos from there as I work. Good way to do my HTML is to use my content. So I was very nice to myself and I made sections for each of the trails I want to feature on the trails page. And I also included a Google Photos link to a photo I've taken of that place, so I don't have to worry about attribution or anything. And so I have to quickly, before I start, go to another tab where I have the image open. I have to save the image to my computer, or I guess I can actually save it right to my repository folder, which is what I was doing earlier, which is why it's currently open in Finder. That's very convenient for me. So I'm just going to call it HVRT for Hudson Valley Rail Trail, and it's going to save as a JPEG. I could save it. I can close the image. I'm going to make sure I have all my images already available to me in my site before I proceed in writing code, because I don't want to spend my whole life going back and forth. I hate doing something called context switching, where I'm switching between different kinds of tasks all the time. I can group similar tasks together. That's a good thing to do. This is going to be Shokin Promenade. I'll just call it AP. I'm keeping those image file names short for no reason other than it makes it easier to type them when I call the image later. And I got the Empire Trail, which I actually learned it was actually called the Brickyard Trail. Who knew? Save image. Brickyard Trail BT. Great. Ooh, that one's a WebP. Sometimes you'll see an image has the extension WebP at the end. That's not a bad thing. Like, you do not need to change it. That is an image format that Google created that's like really, really performant and like loads really fast. And if an image is already a WebP, you can just leave it alone. Like, let it be a WebP. It'll make your life easier. JPEG, like when it comes to photos, JPEG or WebP are your most efficient file types. WebP is definitely the most efficient, but it's not so much more efficient that I would be taking all my JPEGs and forcing them to convert over. Like, I'd just leave it alone. But for photos, JPEG's definitely your best option. For things that are like graphics that don't have a ton of colors in them, PNG is actually better. Like a logo, generally, if you're going to use a pixel-based image type, you're going to want to use PNG. But photos, definitely JPEG. And if your image is like 4,500 pixels wide, you should optimize it for web because that's gigantic. And you want to make it smaller so it can load. Because everything you put on your web page has to load. So if somebody doesn't have very fast internet, you're gonna really annoy them. So I now have my photos all saved to my repo. Just for the sake of looking at what I have here, I have brought in my homepage content. I got my little map. Remember, I embedded my map that one time a couple weeks ago. I got my rinks page. It talks about different rinks. And something that's notable here is making sure I'm following the same structure. I always go heading, image, paragraph, and then operating hours with a bulleted list. Heading, photo, paragraph, operating hours. That like on each page, like when I do like a listing for a particular thing, I try to follow like an identical structure with each one because that consistency can be really useful to your users. And in Figma, these things were probably components in my file. So I like recognized I want to keep the same structure across all of them. And then skate parks, the way the information I was representing was a little bit different. I went a little bit different how I structured the like skate park entry. I have my heading, my image similar to before, but I used something called the details summary element to put my bullets under a little like expandable accordion thing. The markup for that, I'll actually pop back over to my VS Code. If you want to add a little accordion, the way that you do it is using this element right here. So you wrap the whole thing in an element that, whoa, I'm so sorry, that was crazy. That was actually demented. You go away. So I have my details element, and then whatever I want to display all the time, like what goes next to the triangle, goes immediately inside of it in something called the summary element. And then whatever you put after you close the summary element is what will show up when you expand it. That's a pretty cool one. And like, I didn't have to like write any special CSS or JavaScript or anything. Like the detail summary element will just simply work. And a fun fact about it is I actually learned about it in this class because I had a student that really wanted to have an accordion and we were trying to find a way to do it with no JavaScript. And then I learned this HTML element had come out and I was like, that's extremely exciting. And so that's the detail summary element, little skate parks page. And that takes me over to my trails page. Now, as I'm doing this, something that I want to make sure I keep in mind is what's in my head is not automatically updating across all of my pages. So like, let's say I added in some fonts, or I decided to add a style sheet or remove a style sheet on one of my pages. I have to make sure I go through and do that on all of my pages. And that can be pretty annoying. But a good way to deal with it and to work around it is what I do a lot of the time, especially if I'm working on a page I haven't really worked on yet. I will copy the whole head element from the last file I worked on, and then copy the whole head element where I'm going and paste it, and then just look through it to make sure it aligns to this page. So on the Trails page, I'll probably have to, like, this is all looking right, but the title that I have in the browser tab, oh my God, I want to be the name of the page and then a dash and the name of my website. The reason for that is right now, if you look at my browser tab, see it says skate parks roll HV. So I'm on my skate parks page. And then when I go to the home page, it says home roll HV. I go to trails. And now if I'm browsing a website and I'm opening multiple tabs from the same website, the reason why I'm opening with the name of the page is because now my tabs, even when they're kind of collapsed, I can still tell the pages apart. While if I just named every single tab roll HV, I wouldn't be able to tell them apart. And so this is actually a requirement under the web content accessibility guidelines, but I also think it's just like a good user experience thing. Like, especially if you or someone you know is what I like to call a tabs demon. This is an act of kindness to the tabs demons to make sure the tabs have unique names saying what's on the page. Because if somebody loves to just control click on a million tabs and they're all just named the name of the website, they're going to lose their minds and never find what they're looking for. So my first step here after I've pasted in my head content is changing this one to say trails, not trials, and leave the dash roll HV there. Looks like my meta tags are all pretty okay. My favicons the same, my fonts are the same, my style sheet's the same on all my pages. This little style tag I added is the same. And from there, I'm good to go. I've already in my my content part of my page, I've added in an H1 that says trails. So when I go to that page, I can tell that I'm on a different page. Because if all your pages have the same exact content, it's really hard to tell if you change pages. It is a best practice when you are on a page that is not your home page to have an H1 on that page that says the page's name. Because that helps too, as I'm going around between pages on my website, that I get indication of what the point of this page is. That's like part of what the point of an H1 is that it's labeling the page visually and helping somebody know what it is. On your home page, you want to make sure that H1 contains the name of your website. So that way people know what website they are on. That makes sense? Cool. So back into my VS Code file. So I've got my head is sorted. Now I'm working my body. As a friendly reminder, your head, you're like loading information for the browser. In your body, you're doing the stuff that you actually see on the screen when you're looking at your website in the browser. Also, just a friendly reminder, if you have your website open and you don't know how to get it to open in the browser, there's 2 ways to do that. One is you can install this extension in VS Code called Live Server, which is what I'm using. It adds this little button down at the bottom, and it runs your HTML pages in the web browser. And when you save and update those pages, it will automatically refresh the tab and update the content for you, which is why I like using it. If you don't want to do it that way, though, the other way to open your website is to hop into it. Oh gosh, my thing has gotten very complicated. It's in here though. There it is, roll HV. So I went into my websites folder. I go to my index.html. If I control click on it in Finder, I can say open with Google Chrome. You can open with Firefox, you can open with Safari, it doesn't really matter. But since I'm doing development work, I'll say open in Google Chrome. And that will open Google Chrome and open your website. And up top, you'll see it says file : / instead of HTTPS, because it's not going on the web, it's just looking at the files on your computer. The downside to doing it this way instead of doing live server is that when I update stuff, I have to go back here and refresh the page manually. It will not on its own know that you changed anything. So you have to kind of manually refresh. So that is worth considering. I like using the live server thing. It makes my life a little bit easier. It adds this little go live button down at the bottom. I click it, it opens my site in Chrome for me, and it auto updates. Hooray. What a great day to be me. Now I'm at the point that we're going to look at the structure of what's in my body tag on my Trails page. I have my header. I have a link to my homepage. If you notice, I currently have like an emoji there as my logo. And so I had to provide it with an accessible name so that people know what that even means, because it's just a random emoji. And so I added in, because this is an emoji and not like an image, if I had an image, I just use alt text. If it's in your navigation, I learned quite recently that labeling the logo in your navigation as home, so people know it goes to the home page, is considered a best practice. For a long time, I was just doing like whatever the text was in the logo. I don't think that's a bad plan. Like I could have called this roll HV or home. The reason why I have to use this ARIA label thing is because I didn't use an image and I used an emoji. If you're using an image, just proceed as normal, use an alt tag. ARIA label is a way to like override HTML and give information to screen readers. You probably won't end up using it for the most part. If you need it, I'll probably tell you. If you're using an emoji as a logo and it's like if I'm using roller skate and it means something besides roller skate, that's an example of where I might use an ARIA label to let my user know that. But you guys probably have, I think everyone whose site I've looked at like has branding they came up with themselves or text as their logo, so I would not worry about it. Then I have a nav element and I have all my pages listed in it, and that ends my header. After that, I have this div with an ID added to it. If you remember, we talked about this somewhat recently about how IDs can be used as kind of like bookmarks on pages to like flag certain parts of the page. So I have just this empty div and I have it ID'd as top. The reason for that is I decided down in my footer that I wanted to add a element, it's happening right here, that allows the user to press, I'll do it on one of my pages that's longer. If they click on return to top, it scrolls back up to the top of the page for them. And so the way that that works is you'll see this link has ahref equals hashtag top. And that href with a hashtag in it, it's going to link to a point on the page that has the ID that's after the hashtag. So since it's hashtag top, the browser is going to look for something that has ID equals top on it, and that's where it's going to scroll. So that's what that is, and that's how it works. So ahref equals top will go to something. Ahref equals hashtag top. That's critical. The hashtag is make or break. We'll scroll to an element that has hashtag top on it. So that's how that's working. And also in terms of smooth scroll, I think the smooth scroll is built into simple CSS. But if I turn simple.css off, I'll actually, I can just show you guys this. Well, I'm going to do that in a little bit. So I'll come back to that. The way you add smooth scrolling in is actually just one line of CSS. So if you decide to not use simple CSS, you can still have it scroll smooth if you want to scroll to an anchor point. Also, I feel like putting return to top in your footer is just like something to put there. I think a lot of people feel like unsure of what they should have in their footer to begin with. So putting a return to top link is definitely an option, especially if your pages are very, very long. It can be helpful. Okay, and so I got my div equals top, and then this main is like the real, some meat and potatoes of my page. It's the things that are unique to this page over the rest of my website. So I have a main, I have a section. Inside my section, I have my H1 that mentions what the page is. I put a little paragraph under it describing it in more detail. So I say it's trails, and then I say that these are some trails around the Hudson Valley that you can skate on because they're paved, they're smooth enough and flat enough to do so. And you should put some soft wheels on because otherwise it's not very enjoyable. And then from there, I'm going to do what I was doing on my other pages and start opening up sections with information about each of the areas I want to highlight. So I'm just going to keep rolling with that. So after this section closes, I'm going to open a new section. Section is a semantic HTML element that works a lot like just a generic div. It doesn't actually really do anything visually, but it does let the browser know that this main has various segments to it, and can help somebody using assistive technology if they're navigating around by semantic elements to get better descriptions for things. It's not that big of a deal. Like if I didn't have them at all, it'd be okay. Also right now, because I'm working in simple.css, they're using section puts like lines between each one. So I was like, great, I'm gonna use it. Cool. So heading structure wise, like we're looking at my document outline. So remember when we were talking about accessibility, we want to make sure we keep our heading levels making sense. So on my links page, for example, I have an H1 for my links, and then I have an H2 for the name of the rank. And then the heading that happens inside of that section goes down a level again. So I have H1, H2, and H3 in play here. And then you'll see my next rank, I go back out to an H2, and then its operating hours is an H3. And my next one, I go back out to an H2, and then I have an H3 underneath it. So like making sure to use the heading levels correctly and that we're incrementing as we go levels of hierarchy deep. So for my trails page, my first trail that I mentioned, I'm going to make sure I put it in H2 because I already used an H1 at the top of the page. And so I think what I'll do is I will create my sections with H2s in them for all of them. And now we're going to go back and look at my sitemap where I have my content. And so the first one I have listed is the Hudson Valley Rail Trail. So I'm going to write Hudson Valley Rail Trail. And what's the next one I got? I got the Ashokan Promenade. And like, you might work from your Figma, you might work from your sitemap, whatever works for you is fine. When it comes to content gathering, it's whatever makes the most sense to you. I think this is called the Brickyard Trail. Kingston. Okay, so now I got all their names in there. And then the next thing, I think I'm gonna follow the structure on my other pages where I went H2 and then I put an image right after it. So I'm gonna do an image, which is IMG. And then I'm gonna make sure I put the attributes that I absolutely need to have for an image, which are gonna be SRC, which is where that image is coming from. What image am I showing? I have to make sure I have an image in my images folder for it. And then the other thing I have to have is alt text, an alt attribute. Even if I think my image is decorative and that I'm going to describe it below the image anyway, I still have to put an alt attribute onto the image and leave it blank if I feel the image is decorative, because otherwise what will happen is the file name of the image would be read out to a screen reader user. Well, if I leave the alt text blank, it will just say nothing and it won't bother them, which is preferable. So I like doing it this way, that I put my HTML element down, I put my attributes, so my attribute equals sign quotes, a space, and then my next attribute equals sign quotes. So that way I don't forget to put my attributes. So I make sure I would do that first. And then also image is a self-closing tag, so I have to make sure to do a slash before my caret. And so from there, I'm going to go ahead and do my source, which this is going to be Hudson Valley Rail Trail, which I think I did the abbreviation HVRT. And I'm going to control click on it in the sidebar here, or right click if I was on Windows. And I'm going to use this option here that says copy relative path, because it's in a folder and I don't want to forget to do the path correctly. So you're like, the path kind of like tells the browser where to look for the image. So I'm going to say copy relative path, and it's going to provide probably more than I need. Actually, no, it did a perfect job. So what it did was it gave the folder name. So remember, my images are in a folder, and then the file name, a slash, and then the file name. So it's telling it to make sure to look, since I'm currently on Trails, it's telling it first, go to the image folder, open it, and then find my image inside. That's what the slash means. In more complex site folders situations, sometimes it might add a bunch of extra folders you don't need in front of it. So you have to like be a little bit intentional about editing it. But I like using copy relative path, especially in a simple website like this, because it will write it for me and I don't have to remember all the perfect syntax for it. I'm going to leave it all text blank for now, because I kind of have a feeling I'm going to describe the trail sufficiently below the image. So I might consider that a decorative image and leave it blank. Just remember, you have to have the alt attribute there at all. If you are not describing the image sufficiently or getting the information the image would convey to the user via another way, you have to write stuff in the alt tag, and you have to make sure you write what you think the user needed to know from the image. Like, I don't know if any of you heard me in the hallway earlier, I was talking to a team that was putting a bunch of charts in an article on the Traveler's website. And I was giving them advice because they were like, we don't know how we're going to label these charts. They're like bar graphs and stuff. And I was like, what you need to label them with is, what does the person who's reading the article need to know about that chart? Like, is there a very obvious trend that you're trying to prove your point with? Make sure you mention that in there. So in this case right now, though, literally this page, I am describing each trail. So I feel like I might not need to describe the photo necessarily. So I'm going to leave that alone. And we move on to my next image. Same thing, IMG, SRC equals. And then I'm going to get out of my quotes and do my alt, because I don't want to forget to do it. And do slash and my triangle. And then I think I might just go down and do the next one too at the same time. Save myself some time. And so Ashokan Promenade is that ap.jpg. I'm going to say copy relative path. I'm going to paste it. And then my Brickyard Trail. There's that one. Another reason why doing copy relative path and just pasting it in is helpful too, is like sometimes an image might be like a WebP or a PNG or a JPEG, and it just keeps you from having to remember so much. It's just less cognitive load, I suppose. And so I got all those there. I'm gonna save it and I'm gonna go take a look at how this is going on my actual site. So we're gonna go to trails. And okay, now I got my Hudson Valley Rail Trail, I got my image, I got my Shogun Promenade, my image, and my Brickyard Trail Kingston image. Okay. And then I want to make sure I add, I think I on my sitemap had I had links to all of their like corresponding informational websites. Yes, I did. Okay. Okay. And so I think I'll just do a paragraph element. So I'm going to add some text and I'm going to say, learn more about the Hudson Valley Rail Trail. And then I'm going to make the words Hudson Valley Rail Trail be a link and not learn more, because learn more is a shitty link name. Because if I had a line under all of them that said learn more and I made all of them be links, if someone's navigating the page by links, they'd just get learn more, learn more, learn more, and they would not be able to tell the links apart. And so make sure your links have unique, meaningful names, is in fact the way. So I'm going to do a href, and then I'm going to put my /a at the end. And then this is an interesting situation because we've talked about internal page linking, but then there's also external page linking. So this page is on a different website than my website. So I actually want it to open in a new tab rather than open in the tab I'm in, because I don't want people to lose my website in their pursuit of information. So I'm going to actually add another attribute to this, and it's going to be target equals, and it's going to have an underscore and say blank. So now all I got to do is paste in, that's not what I wanted. I got to paste in my link. So I make sure I copy everything from the whole address bar. So I clicked in the address bar until I saw the HTTPS. I'm doing Command A to highlight everything. I'm doing Command C to copy. And that's what I'm going to put in between the quotes. What goes in the quotes is what goes in the address bar of your browser. And so now I have a link that says learn more about the Hudson Valley Rail Trail, and it has target blank, target underscore blank to be more specific, because on my site now, when it says learn more about the Hudson Valley Rail Trail, when I click it, it opens a new tab next to the tab that I'm on instead of destroying the tab. Like I can now be like, oh, I learned what I needed to learn now. I'm going to close this tab, and it puts them back on my website. So I'm happy with that. And put a period after. And then I might just copy that and do it with my other ones too. I may have to change some text in the links, but nothing too crazy. Okay. Back to my sitemap. Let's get the links for these ones. Catskills Visitor Center has a nice page about the Ashokan Promenade. And so we can say, we highlight this blue and paste in my new link. And then we want this to what's inside the A tags, because that's what shows up like actually in view. And we'll call it Ashokan Promenade. Okay, save that. Also, if you notice as I'm saving, it's like formatting it so my HTML doesn't just like flow out that way indefinitely. If that's not happening for you on save, you can control click on the page, and then there's an option that says format document. If you click on format document, it'll do the same thing that mine is doing on save. So I've added in my, let's see if it's there. Oop. Learn more. I gotta refresh the page, question mark? Or did I not save it? No, I did. Okay. Hello? What did I change? Oh, I put it on the wrong one. Okay. Let's just replace that. I put it onto the next one down instead. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. I'm making sure I test it as I go to make sure I put the right links. It's not something that's so visually apparent that it would be wrong. And then add the same thing in again, and go back to my sitemap and get the link for Empire Trail. Hello. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to copy that, the Kingston section of the Empire Trail. And what we're concerned about is this lovely green section by Sojourner Truth State Park. Hudson Valley Greenway Trail. Oh, that's a nice way of calling it. I might change the name to that. Hudson Valley Greenway Trail. Okay, that's stunning. Okay. And so then I want to make sure I replace the link with the right link. Okay. Make sure I save it. We're going to go back and look at my website. Yeah, okay, now that's showing up. Now on my other pages, when it came to adding in extra information, like with the roller rinks, I was talking about them in terms of like what made them unique from other roller rinks, like Skate Time, for example. It's my favorite rink. They have a really good like food situation, and they have their own DJ, and they have a roller derby team, which is pretty cool. Well, like Wooden Wheels, kind of like a birthday party facility that happens to have a roller rink. But what's really cool about it is it's the only rink I've ever been to that has figure skating lines drawn onto it for people who do figures on roller skates, which is pretty neat. So like I was like highlighting what's special about them. And also roller rinks tend to have really crazy hours, really scattered hours. So that was why I highlighted their operating hours. And then skate parks, it's kind of like a really heavy, like, you know culture. If you know, you know. And so like I put some tips about like, if you don't go to skate parks a lot, like what's good to know about it. So I think with trails, what might be good is I think I might include maybe like the same thing with the details and summary element where, or I guess I only really would be including the length of the trail. I think that's important. Maybe I should be saying if it's a loop or an out and back, and then if it has any incline to it. So I think maybe I'll do that as a bullet point list. So I'll do a UL, which is an unordered list, meaning I'll do bullet points, and then I'll add some list items to it. And I'll do 3 of them for each of the things I just mentioned. So we'll do length, we'll do and back, and then inclines. Oh, and then maybe I should do the surface as well. Like if it's really bumpy. Okay, cool. And then my other ones, I might just literally copy this, because then I can style them to look the exact same pretty easy. But you know what though, on my other one, I put like a heading over my bulleted list to like make it a little easier to identify. So I've already used an H2, and this is like something that belongs to information about the Hudson Valley Rail Trail. So I'm going to go down to the next heading level, and I'll say trail info to start off, and then I will, because I was being a little goblin and I didn't work out my content this level ahead of time. Sometimes your content changes over time, like as you actually see it in code, and that is totally fine. And then I'm going to add a trail info section to this one, and then I'm just going to work my way down through them. So trail info length on the Hudson Valley Rail Trail is probably going to be on its webpage. It's actually, off the top of my head, I think 13 miles. And then incline. Not a lot of hills, but one small one near Route 9W in Highland. I know that off the top of my head because I sprained my knee there. Rip. Varies Nicer near Lloyd NY Tony Williams Park in. This is also why you make a website about your special interest for this class, because then you can pull information out of the top of your head really easily, as opposed to having to go look it up. Nicer near Lloyd, New York, which is Tony Williams through Tony Williams Hyde Park in Highland. And near to the walkway over the Hudson. Skates are allowed on the walkway. And you can proceed. I should add the Dutchess County Rail Trail to this, but I'm not going to. It's actually crazy the rail trail network we have up here. Like you can, with the Empire Trail, you can go, like the goal with it when it's done is that you can be able to go from New York City to Buffalo all on rail trails. Like the idea is that you could ride a bike. Not all of it's paved though. Like right now, like even when I have the this one open, like you see how segments of this turned yellow? It's because those are parts where you have to drive on the road to get to the next part. Like this is for the New York State Empire Trail, like the really, really big one. And so like, I don't consider the entirety of the Empire Trail skatable, but there are segments around here that are pretty solid. Like the reason why this one is a dotted line is because it is the Wallkill Rail Trail, which comes here to New Paltz. But a reason why it's a dashed line is because it is dirt and not paved, which is very good to know. And then there's like a little bit of a demented connector to the Hudson Valley Rail Trail out in Lloyd by Lowe's. But the reason why this is highlighted in red is because I'm pretty sure it's Dubois. Have you guys been on Henry W. Dubois recently? And there's like that beautiful paved side of the road for bikes. But there's some sort of dispute between the state and the town about whose job it is to maintain it. And so it's closed. But in reality, I just see people go around the things all the time. But that's why that's highlighted in red. And so like, this is the part I'm talking about. And then you can go through to the other side in Dutchess County, but I don't know this trail nearly as well. And it's like, you have to cross the road at a lot of points, which is why I did not include it. I also just don't spend a lot of time on the east side of the river, but maybe I could expand to that later. Dutchess Rail Trail, maybe that's what's 13 miles. This might be 11. I'll put that at 13 miles. That goes all the way to Hopewell Junction. Dutchess is paved the entire way. But wait, so where did I put 13? It's actually 11 on our side. Okay, so Ashokan Promenade, that is the 1.3. I think it is. I'm gonna have to fact check myself on this later. It's an out and back incline, mild, near the I'm not gonna worry about this too much. Incline, colon, mild, surface condition, rough, use roller blades if possible. For the biggest, softest wheels you have. Okay. Length of the Hudson Valley Greenway Trail, I want to say is 1.3. Let's see if this map has a nice definition of that for me. How long are you? It's not going to tell me, is it? Oh, look, here we go. The 6.5, heading north, round out landing from there, 1 mile on road route is designated to the shoulders. The second, 1.5. 1.5 miles. Okay. Incline. large, mild, severe. What's the word I'm looking for here? Like if it's if there's like one part where there's a lot of incline. It's not severe, sounds so violent. It's not steep. Steep just after Sojourner Truth State Park. This has got to get out of my way. Surface conditions smooth, paved initially in 2021. Okay, cool. So that's all my information. Let's see how it looks. There's my bullet points. Hooray. Trail info. Hooray. I'm gonna check my, not going blue sky. Get out of here. Okay, we're going on Andy. Look at my structures. Okay, we're going between H2 and H3 pretty nicely. That's looking pretty good. I like the look of it. Why do I have iframes? I don't. It's just a Chrome extension I have. Okay. What do I have? No, that's not anything either because there's just an iframe that gets added by a Chrome extension. Cool. Okay. So now I feel like at this point I have my content in a pretty good place. Since I'm done adding content, if I want to, I don't have to continue to use simple CSS if I do not wish to. In fact, I'm going to, for this demo, show you what that process looks like. Yeah, this is where I am. Great. So the way I am going to do that, and remember, I'm going to have to go through, because I'm doing this like old school HTML way, I have to go through all of my pages and remove simple CSS from the head. I think I'm just going to comment it out though, as opposed to removing it entirely in case I want to add it back later. The way I'm going to comment it out is I'm going to hold the command key on my keyboard, and then I'm going to press the question mark key next to the shift button. And that will automatically turn that to an HTML comment for me, which is like kind of annoying syntax. You have to do triangle, an exclamation point, dash, dash, and then at the end, add dash, dash, and another triangle. But that shortcut in VS Code to just be able to comment stuff out pretty easily is very nice. So I got to do that there, but then I have to go through all of my other pages and make sure I do it with all of them. Okay. Got that one. Boo, boo, boo. Okay. That one. And then I got this one. Boop. Oh no, I accidentally commented out too much. Stop that. I only wanted to do this line. Cool. So now I've commented out my simple CSS, and it's going to turn into like a really basic HTML page with no styling on it at all. But that's okay. It's the world is my canvas. Hooray. Did you just turn yours to HTML and you're like, whoa, ugly? That's okay though. It's a journey. It's a process. Trust the process. Whereas we're going to do some base level styling and base level layout stuff. So like, for example, like my images now are like insane. They're huge. But I'll reel them back in. I'll reel them back in. So for this part, I'm going to open up my Figma. Figma. I was surprised they let Figma balls stay up for open house last weekend. Like a lot of like high schoolers bring their parents here. It's in fact when I decided to come here was accepted Students' Day. Okay. Wow, I have to log into Figma. Sometimes in life, you just gotta log into Figma. That's just how it is. Okay, it says it's authenticated. Hooray. Oh, also this is a good moment to plug going to Figma Config, which they run as an online free virtual conference. If like you're finding like web and UX is interesting to you, Config is like this big like UX conference that Figma puts on, and like you can pick and choose the sessions you go to. I normally pick like 2 or 3 and call it a day. Some people go to like everything all day, but like if there's like so many sessions that are about like really specific stuff, and like if it's something you want to learn more about, it can be really cool. Here, I'll drop a link to it in our I will drop a link to it in our last thing. I wonder what if they have any of the talks up. But they'll talk about like new features coming to Figma. I have my fingers crossed. Like they rolled out this feature in Figma last year called Make Designs that like you could be like, Figma, please make me a login page that has 2 fields and it'll like kind of like put the initial shapes and everything out there for you, and then you get to just like edit it to design it. It seems pretty cool. I hope that they ended up undoing releasing it though, and I have a theory they're going to release it at Figma config this year. But yeah, it goes over the course of 3 days. They have sessions at like all different times a day. Please note they list them at Pacific time, which is 3 hours behind us. So like, we're 3 hours ahead of them. So something's listed as 9 a.m. Pacific. That's actually noon our time. So we have to add 3 hours to it. So like all this stuff happens online. If you're like hoping just like learn more about how Figma works, there's sessions about that. They get into like, I usually go to stuff for their design systems track because I'm on a design systems team and we administer our design system via Figma to our designers, talk about administering with user testing. Like they get into like all kinds of crazy stuff, like more than you'd ever really even want, but it can be a good way to learn and it's free, which is the biggest thing. Let me just add that too. Boop, edit list. That's also during reading week, right? Like we have our last day of classes on the 5th, I want to say. So if somehow you're not totally bogged down and dying, that could be a cool thing to check out. 6th or 9th, I think. Figma config. Save. Send to me, students in the Zoom. Hello? Where is the meeting? There it is. Chat. There it is. Chat. Okay, there we go. There's the info about config. So anyway, back to what I was actually talking about. Also, I'm just noticing we're closing in on 5 o'clock. How are people doing? Should we go on break anytime soon? Or you're like, we're vibing, keep going. Huh? You want to keep going? Okay. Love it. Screw Figma config. You can look at it later. Okay, cool. Trying to see if I have designs for the site anymore. Anywhere in here. I think I do. Boop, 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 doo, 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 doo. There's one. Great. Wait, where's the design file for this? Oh, I'm such an agent of chaos. Can I go to the design file for this in an easy way? Yes, open an editor. Hooray. Because I'm going to use something Figma has to help me. Hooray. All right. Cool. So I have kind of an unfinished design here, but that's okay. Most of the stuff I actually would need for my site are here. So that's great news. So starting off, I want to look at the list of things in the order I wrote them down. I want to go over background first. Easy. I got 2 kinds of backgrounds. I actually got 3. I got 2 of the 3 of the ones I want to show you here. So that's perfect. So in my file right now, I have a few different kinds of backgrounds going on here. On my footer, I have a gradient background. On my header, I have an image background, and I actually have a color overlay added to it as well, which I was planning on adding with CSS. I also just have a solid color background for my site that is white, so pretty easy. So to start off, I can, in Figma, get suggestions. I will call them suggestions and not like what exactly you should do from Figma about your CSS for things. It can be quite useful for certain things and absolutely fucking useless for others. Where it's quite useful is typography. quite useful for backgrounds. It's quite useful for, what's another thing it's useful for? It might mostly colors and font stuff. It's most useful. For like what we're doing right now, it's actually pretty useful. So I can, on the bottom of my screen, you see all the way over on the right-hand side, there's this thing called dev mode. It looks like a little HTML tag with a slash in it. You can click on it and it will come on and a bunch of green stuff will show up and it'll try to promote a bunch of stuff to you. But the design pane is going to change over to the inspect pane. So you'll see it says inspect. And it even has like the little box model thing like we were looking at in Chrome DevTools. And it'll try its best, like it'll even like show me my gradients and stuff. It'll give me assets I can grab, like images that I can download and add into my site if I want to. It can be like as you click on stuff, it'll come up with other suggestions. It's pretty cool. So to start off though, I just want for my regular frame, it actually right here, you'll see like when I click on objects, it will have a layout section. The layout section is what I find to be useless. It tries so hard. You remember how we were talking about relative units? It seems only to be capable of giving static units, which is very useless for a responsive web. So for the most part, we're going to ignore the layout section. What's useful is this style section. We like the style section. She's cool. She's that girl. So in the style section, I can actually just click. There's like a little clipboard next to it. I can click copy. And then I can pop into my code file. Boop, boop, boop. And actually, before I do anything else, I actually need to make a style sheet in this file because I do not have one right now. So I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to, in my head, do link rel equals style sheet. Thank you. Wow, it didn't go in the quotes. That's awesome. Okay, style sheet. And then we're going to say href equals, not href, just href. We're going to say style.css. Most of you have this already. For some reason, I don't. I'm the problem here. And then in my sidebar, because I've said style.css, I need to have a file that is called style.css. That's quite critical. So I'm going to go into the sidebar. And if you're wondering how to add a file, you control click on the empty space and you can say new file. And I'm going to call mine style.css. Hooray. And now what I copied from Figma is a CSS declaration with no selector. I still have to write the selector. That was why I was making you guys drill so hard in selectors last week. So I want this is just my background color for the whole page. So I'm going to target body, which is just an HTML element selector for the whole page because my whole page in the back is white. Easy enough. And from there, I can finally have the super gratifying moment of pasting what Figma gave me. You'll notice Figma is trying to encourage me to use CSS variables. It actually encouraged use of having a variable called BG. Let's say you're allergic to variables. I can just take the hashtag FFF from it. Before I do anything else, though, I do want to make sure I was using a style tag, which is messy of me. So I'm going to just grab what's in that style tag and add it to my style sheet because it is actually just CSS I want to add to every page that I had made before. And then I'm going to delete that style tag. And now I've done a bunch of stuff that I need to do on all my other pages once again, because I did it on my skate parks page and none of my rest pages. So I'm going to make sure I copy link rel style sheet. And instead of replacing my whole head, I'm just actually going to replace the style tag with link rel style sheet. You guys probably don't have a style tag, and I love that for you. This is a me problem. Okay, so we gotta make sure we treat the heads of all of my pages the same with the exception of their page title. So those are all good. Let's see how things are going. Things look the same, largely because the background was already white. Nailed it. And I now have done my first background, which again, first kind of background, we kind of talked about it a good bit already. It's just a color. You can do any color in the world. Like if I was like, you know what, white's boring. I want to make it like a light rat green. I can then come over here and it should work. And if it doesn't work, I have problems and I need to fix them. Let's find out. No, it worked. Okay, cool. So now it's switched over to be like a light green I set it to. That was not in my Figma. I was being chaotic. Maybe I'll change it in my Figma. Make it match. Turn that back to a hex. I'll go back over my Figma and be like, actually, I want this to be bright green now. I have to switch out of dev mode to do that though. So you have to hit the switch and then it'll put it back to like design Figma. So I'll go in there and I will do custom color. I'll paste my hex. Make sure it's at 100% opacity. And I'm good. Okay, back into dev mode so I don't get lost. Okay, next kind of background we'll talk about is a background image, which I seem to here have on my header. So I'm going to go into here and I know that I am going to, so before I proceed though, right now I have my body tag, a custom class, and a all selector in place. And so I should start organizing my sales sheet. This is going to end up getting pretty long. So I'll add a little CSS comment above that says like global styles. And then I'm going to highlight it and turn it into a comment. And then I'll do like header styles. And then I'll highlight that and turn it into a comment. Just so like things are broken up a bit and like I can find my way around. So these can get pretty long. So I'm going to target my header because that's what I want to put this background image onto. And let's see. Is my what? So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing this without simple CSS here because it seemed to be confusing the hell out of everybody. And I was like, you know what? I've taught this class a million times where we just did CSS from scratch. Let's just do CSS from scratch. But you can use it if you want to. Like it's not against the rules or anything like that. But you could, if you want to, you can just comment it out. So you could add it back later if you want. You might decide you don't like to work from scratch. Either way's fine. That's why there's no root here though. Good question. Any other questions? Everyone doing okay? Cool. So header, I'm once again going to use the background property because background is short for it'll like automatically figure out there's a property called background dash image. There's one called background dash color and there's one called background dash gradient. But if you shorten to just background, it like auto figures out which one you want to use. Okay, so. So the way that you add a background image, Figma covers it, but they actually get into layering them. And I don't want to do that immediately. So I'm going to show what they've given me, which is the correct way to do this, which is doing background URL. And then inside of parentheses, you give it the path to the image, much like you would in the image tag. When you're doing a background image, it's not like when you add an image into the page with HTML. Background images inherently are not visible to screen reader users, and that's okay. It's like generally they tend to be decorative images. That's the premise for the most part. If for some reason you're adding an important image onto the page with a background image, make sure you go back into that element and add description text in some way. But for the most part, it's not that important. And generally the reason why you're using it as a background image is because it's a decorative image. So just a good thing to know though. I like adding single quotes inside my URL. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did before where I copied relative path and pasted it. And so now in my page, see if this worked. Yep, up here in my header, it's kind of hard to see, but my logo and my links are now inside of the background image. What's up?
Size smaller. When I could find it's just images, it came up big image size.
Yeah, images by default will like, but we're gonna get to it. It's like right now mine's really tiny and I don't really want it to be either. So what we're gonna cross that when we get to it. Also right now it looks like my background image is like it's really short and hard to even see my image at all. So I'm actually gonna go back to Figma because I think I want some height inspo. So I'm going to click on this box and see how tall it is and see. I am going to reference that layout section. in the end. So it's giving me some CSS. I think it's suggesting I give it a width, which I don't want to do because I actually want its width to be able to change. It's giving me a height, which I think I might want to reference, but I don't want it to always be that height. So I might take their height suggestion of 240 pixels with me. And I think I'm going to hop in here, but I'm going to change it to min height. So that way, if it needs to get taller, it can. Min height will just tell it not to get shorter than 240. So now in here, okay, now we got some craziness going on. Part of the reason why this is I want you guys to know about how CSS handles background images and the extra properties that you need to add to help them not look insane. So as a starting point here, by default, CSS will fill the region you added the background image to, and it will repeat that image to fill the space, which in 2025, I'm a little bit like, come on, guys, who actually wants that to happen in 2025? Nobody? Like, what do they do? Anyways, there are other properties we add to make it do what we want. And Figma is actually pretty good at giving me some of the ones that I need. So the first one is going to be background. Figma is like compacting it into a really small CSS statement, but I want to walk you through all the properties so you know what they do and what they mean. And so this first one is going to be called background repeat because I actually don't want it to repeat at all. And so it's going to be background dash repeat, and I'm going to say no repeat. So I just write no, and it's going to suggest no repeat for me. And that's going to make it just show up once and not fill in my whole container. That's also not great. That's because I still need to add a whole other property. And that property is going to be called background size. And what background size does is tell the image how to behave within the container. So the container's full with the page, and the image right now is just chilling over here. I'm going to tell it to do something called cover, which means stretch the image out so that there's no like random white space in the box. And so once I do that, now it's looking closer to what we want. But it's still like kind of huge. I don't know what that's about. Boop, boop. Why are you like that? Cover no repeat. Background size. Cover. I guess because the aspect ratio is crazy. Yeah, I guess so. Okay. Let's go down to, oh, there's another one that I should show you because it's good in situations like this. It's called background position, and background position will tell the browser what part of the image to prioritize. Because you see now when I make the window smaller, it's like not cutting off the whole image and it's like showing more of it. So what you can do is you can use a property called background position to tell it which part of the image to always keep in the frame when you're cropping stuff out. So like right now, by default, it's going to do the top left corner. And there's nothing happening in the top left corner. It's boring. I'm far more interested in what's going on in the bottom right corner where people are skating. So background position will accept two inputs, one being the vertical position you want to prioritize, and one's the sideways position you want to prioritize. So I'm actually going to tell it right bottom. And that should work. Let's see. Let it get big. Yeah, okay. So now it's doing that. And you know what I'm learning from this? Maybe I don't want right bottom. Maybe I want center bottom. Let's see how that goes for me. I don't think that went well for me at all, actually, to be fair. I think right center. You kind of have to play around with it to find, oh, okay. I think you might have cooked there, Sherelle. Yep. Nice. You get it. Okay, cool. So now I got that showing up and it's looking pretty good. So like, that's how to get your background image to behave responsively in the way you want. Now, every image is different and you might have to play around with the background position properties before you get it to go how you want it to go. Because it's kind of like a case of getting it in there and then like dragging it around to see what happens.
key terms for the period and then just the top.
Um, I'm not sure. Sometimes it can, well, for those kinds of questions, I like to go to, there's this website called W3 Schools. And I like looking up W3 Schools and the name of the property because they go into like a whole deep dive of it and show like all the options you can do. Like, see, the property value section will do like, so like you can do everything I just said. You can also do percentages for even more precise placement. I find the percentages one really annoying. But it can be helpful sometimes if you have an image, you really just want one specific part of it to always be in view. Like you can play with the numbers and really get it to stay. So that's a good one. But I'll make sure to link this because the CSS properties reference is very helpful, especially when you like want something specific to happen and you're just not sure what your options are even. Like VS Code's pretty good about suggesting stuff, but it doesn't always suggest everything you need. Like it didn't think to suggest numbers to me because it's trying its best, but it's still just an algorithm. Like it doesn't actually know CSS. Okay, cool. So now I got that going on, got my background, but now I still can't really read my text in there. Like here I can see my stuff that's on there because it's like a lighter color. And I've darkened the background. Though, I'll show you how to do a gradient first, and I'm going to come back to that, so it'll make more sense. So we're going to hop down to my footer where I'm doing a gradient background on it. So this whole little section down here is my footer. And so on my footer, I want to add a background gradient. And Figma is actually really good at generating the CSS for doing a gradient. So I will be leveraging that. So it's going to try by default, if I've like saved something to be like a reusable style, it's going to try to show me it as a CSS variable, which is nice, but I actually just want to use regular CSS. So I have to like pick parts of this out. So I want to start off by doing background as my property in VS Code. I'm going to write the word background and I'm going to add the colon. And then there's a part of this I need to grab. So, and I'm so sorry I can't zoom Figma in to have its interface be bigger. It's very obnoxious. But what I want here is this linear gradient with the parentheses. With what it does is it says linear gradient, it tells it the angle the gradient is, and then your two colors and like their gradient stop positions. So I already made those in the Figma gradient editor. I think it looks nice. So I'm just going to copy that linear gradient and I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to save it. I'm going to go over to my site and there it is. It's made it. But before I proceed forward, I'm noticing on both of these in my design, I have it like flush to the edge of the viewport, but in my site, I'm getting like a white border around it. And that is due to something that is called, what's the technical name for it? It's like browser default styles. Like Google Chrome by default, if it gets a web page that doesn't have a lot of CSS, it'll try to add its own CSS to make that page like legible for humans. And one of the things it'll do is it'll add some extra space in for you. So if I do an inspect, no, do not do view page source, get out of my town. Okay. Inspect. I'll actually get this to show up in the box model. So if I hover out here, I hover on the body tag, I actually see on the body tag, when I hover on it, an orange border that matches up to that gap I'm seeing. So I'm going to click on my body tag and I'm going to look at my box model and it looks like, yep, 8 pixels of padding are getting added all the way around. And it's called user agent style sheets. There it is. And down at the bottom in italics in DevTools, we actually see that margin 8 pixels get added. All I have to do, this is not showing a style sheet that I made because it's not. The way I undo it is I match the selector, match the property, and change the value. So in my style sheet, I'm going to find my tag, that my CSS declaration for body, and I'm going to add margin 0 to it. And that will take the gap away for me. That does come with a little bit of a problem in that you see now all my text is like touching the edges. But when I go to format my main later, I will address that because right now it's like a little uncomfortable how close everything is to the edges. Like that space was doing something. Just it didn't know what my design was, so it didn't know how to do it correctly. Okay, so now I got that going on, and I still got a bit of a gap under my footer. What's that coming from? Oh, that's coming from a paragraph. So maybe for that one, you guys learned about this in the CSS game. If it's the last paragraph on the page, what selector would it use? Yep, last dash child on the case. And I can tell it margin 0. And that will get rid of the gap under the footer. And it would like, so I told it footer P last child. So that way it only did it to this one. Isn't that crazy? That's like CSS wizardry in my mind. I used to do WordPress themes that came into play so much. And I was like, I'm a genius. Because I couldn't edit the HTML on somebody else's WordPress site. Like if we were just doing the theme, which was just a style sheet, like they could still use WordPress however they wanted, make whatever content they wanted. And so like I'd have to like come up with schemes like that for styling things so they wouldn't get broken. It's crazy. Anyways, though, we've now done a color for the background. We've done a linear gradient. We've done an image, but now we're going to combine them. So you can actually, on the same object, layer multiple backgrounds. So the trick I do with that is I will make a gradient that uses the same color twice at like half opacity or 30% opacity to darken an image using CSS. Yeah.
Also, like for resizing images, if you have images, because I have text on as images, is there a way to kind of lock it so that like it's just size as
Yeah. Now we're gonna get to it. We're working our way through. Right now we're doing background images. Okay. So up here, I got this image in full color and I want to put stuff on top of it. And it's not gonna be very easy to read unless I put an overlay on it. So Figma's aware of this situation and it will help me come up with the right CSS for the situation. So if I go over here and I look in my little Figma zone, remember, I'm not going to just blindly copy paste the whole thing because some of it doesn't know. Like it's going to try to write suggestions. It'll put URL and then path to image in the suggestions. And that's not actually going to do anything in the browser. But what I can do is I can look at a style and grab the part of it I need. And so the thing you need to know is that in the background property, you can layer backgrounds. So we can add a linear gradient that goes to the same opacity of the same color twice to just add a color overlay. And then after that linear gradient, I just add a comma and then I put my URL. So what I'm going to do, because I already have my URL, is I'm just going to copy everything before it up until linear gradient. And then I'm going to go in here, I'm going to put a space, I'm going to paste it. Because I already have the URL image that I want, and I've already added the sizing properties I need, and I should be able to save it, and we should be able to come over here, and my image is now darkened. Hooray! But I'm still not done, because now I still can't read anything. And so I was thinking I could also do the layout of this header while I'm here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the markup I have on hand here for this header. I have a header, and inside of it, I have a link, I have a nav, and it's possible I actually want to put my H1 in there too. That's plausible. I might just do it on this page and see, or I should do it on the home page. What am I doing? What am I doing? All right, I'm gonna move this up and put it after my nav inside the header, actually. Like sometimes your HTML structure changes as you work, and that's okay. But let's hop into my homepage. Okay, this now looks more like my thing, but it's really hard to read anything because I got this dark background. Everything on top of it's also dark. So good starting point probably would be to set the color of everything that's in the header to be white. So we're gonna first do color property, and we're gonna do hashtag FFF for white. Okay, now I can see my header. Hooray. Next thing though is my nav items. They are there and they are not legible at this moment. And so I'm gonna need to target them, and I can target them by doing header nav A. Also, I don't know why those are apart. I don't agree with my decision there. So header nav A. Cool. Let's go. So header nav A, because we're doing links that are in the nav in the header. We're not styling other links on the page. So we're going to say color, and we're going to do the same thing, FFF. Okay, now they're showing up. Now they're showing up, and we're first going to look at my page magnification level, because I feel like I'm really, really zoomed out. No, I'm not. Okay, that looks really tiny to me. So I'm going to also, is that really true that that's my page magnification level? It feels fake. Or maybe just I'm so used to showing you guys stuff on the screen like this. That's also entirely plausible. Okay, index. Hello? Oh, right, I went off of my homepage. Okay, so I have this underline under all my links, and I don't think I want to. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my header nav A, and I'm gonna do this property that's called text decoration. And text decoration will let you choose if you're going to have an underline and what kind. You can have like a dashed underline, you can have a squiggly one, or you can have none. So for now, I'm going to say none. I will though, a lot of times if I take the underline away from a link, when I hover or focus on that link, I add it back so that there's some visual indication that's besides color that I'm interacting with something. But for the moment, I'm just going to say none, and that should remove the underline from it. Okay. And so now I think I want to make sure, I want to make that roller skate icon bigger, I think. Boop, boop, boop. Maybe I'll give it an ID. I'm gonna do ID equals logo. And then I also, because I'm gonna do some layout stuff where I want the other links to be grouped together, I'm just gonna add a div around the other 3 page links that are not the logo homepage situation. And that shouldn't have any visual impact on the immediate basis. Okay, it did have visual impact. We're not going to take it on too much. All right. So I got my logo, I got my links. We're going to make my logo bigger. So we're going to go in here. I'm in my header styles. That's actually footer styles down there. I'm just going to highlight that, Command/. We're going to focus on the header. I'm going to do hashtag logo because I made it an ID. And because mine's there as an emoji font, not as an image, I have to do it via font size. If you have an image, you're going to use the width property and the height property if you need to. If this was an image, I'd do like with 120 pixels. And if it was getting stretched out, I'd then add height auto. But since this is an emoji font, I'm going to say font size. And I'm actually going to use rems on this one because I just don't want to have to come up with the number off the top of my head. I want it to be, I don't know, roughly 3 times the size of my regular text. Let's see how that goes for me. Okay. I guess that could work. Maybe a little smaller. Do 2.5. And that's just 2.5 times 16. Like it's arbitrary. It doesn't actually really matter as long as it looks right to me. But that can be an easier way to increment the scale. Not that deep though. Okay. And I think a starting point before I proceed any further is I want to center everything in here. And if you were somebody that looked ahead into Flexbox stuff, I think that's the approach I'll take because it's a little bit easier. So first time I talk about Flexbox, I like to talk about it just for centering stuff because that's always the question I get the most is how do I center stuff? And Flexbox is definitely the easiest way to make that happen. Before I start doing it, I'm going to explain it a bit. So do you see how my header here has all of this stuff nested inside of it. Like it's indented in one level. When I add display flex to my header, what I put on it is going to move my nav and my H1 around. It's not going to move the stuff around inside of it. It's only going to move the nav and the H1. So if I go into my style sheet now and on my header and I add display Flexbox is used for doing layout logic, and particularly it's used for you doing responsive layout logic. It's primarily used in multi-column layouts. Like if you have like 4 items and you want them to stack up different ways as you change your screen size, it's really good for that. But the other thing I find it the most useful for is centering things. And we're just going to start off by using it to center stuff. So to turn on Flexbox, that's your first line that you're doing with it. You're just saying display flex. And then we do the rest in DevTools because I think it makes more sense in DevTools because there's pictures and icons and stuff you can use to help generate the code. So now because I added display flex, we now see a flex label is getting added to my header in DevTools. So if I click on my header in DevTools, and I look in my CSS zone, now where I've added display flex, you'll notice this little like six-pack icon that shows up next to it. If you click on it, it'll give you a beautiful little editor, much like the Object Align editor in Illustrator, or the Object Align panel in Figma even. So from there, I can click on these little icons and kind of get the outcome I'm looking for. So to start off with, Flex by default is going to set everything to row, which is why right now these things are side by side. Starting point, I'm going to kick that to be a column. Hooray, we've done that. Slayed. Next thing I want to do is I want to throw this stuff into the middle. So I think it's going to be justified content. It might end up being align items. This is why I like having this editor open, is because you can try things. And if it doesn't work the way you expected, you can like see what it's doing and figure out which one's the right one. So this is not actually what I was initially looking for. This is vertically centering it, but I actually want to vertically center it anyways. So I'm just going to leave that turned on. I think what I need to get it to go that way is align items. Yes. Okay, cool. That did it. So now, as I was doing that, it was writing me CSS. So Flexbox can be kind of annoying in remembering what all the property names are. I think the person who wrote them recently had a lobotomy or something because they're all named really weirdly, and I don't think they make sense. So the way I think is best, especially as a beginner, short of memorizing them, is just using the DevTools thing for creating the Flexbox rules. So literally, I just went and copied and pasted them. I'm gonna paste them in. Hooray, now I don't have to write all those. Okay, so it's starting to look good, but it's not all the way right. Let's investigate further. So I have my logo like kind of stacking on top of my other things. And I think I need to flex style the nav bar part in particular. It's still not really behaving how I want it to. I also don't know if I actually want to vertically center it, so I'm going to cut that part off. Okay, because I want this at the top. I don't know why I was doing that. Okay, so that's the other thing with flex is that, so to center stuff, you add flex to the thing that holds the things you want to center, and then you're adding in display flex, and then align, you make sure you switch it to column if you want it to be vertically stacked the way the page normally would work. And then align item center, if you're set to column, will center stuff on there for you. And you'll actually see DevTools like putting that purple line that everything's clinging to onto the screen. So just because I use flex in one place doesn't mean I can't use it in others. So like I can also add flex to my nav and use it to do some other things that would be useful for me. So I'll do header nav, and I'm going to add flex to that as well to do some more complex layout stuff. Is that a hand? Okay, just a stretch. Respect. Okay, so I'm gonna do display flex to my nav, and okay, I actually wanted my nav links to be next to the roller skates. So that's good news. So we're gonna go to here, and we're gonna workshop this a bit to get it to do what we want. I want the logo to go to one corner, and I want the 3 links to go to the other. And I want them to be vertically centered with each other. is really what I'm targeting here. So I think I'm gonna start off just by doing align content. Nope, not align content. Align items. There we go. And then I'll get them to like line up vertically to each other. So that's good. And then I think before I can do the next part I want to do, I need to tell this to take up the width of the page. So I'm gonna say width 80 VW, maybe wider than that. Might need to workshop that number. I like 94. I don't want it to touch the sides, so I'll do 94. And that's viewport width. That's what VW stands for. So when I change the screen size, it'll like move things. Okay. So back in here though, because now I still got to workshop one more part of it. So what I want them to do is where these dashy lines are, I want that to go in between them and I want them to go away from each other. So for that, I'm going to use this justify content one, and there's going to be a picture that looks more right than the others. And it's this one for me. That is going to be space between. And what that'll do is kick my nav links over to the other side. Now, when it comes to your site navigation, because of the responsive behavior it has to contain, I'm going to give you code to do this. I just want you to understand why and how it is working. So like if you're like frantically trying to, this is like pretty complex Flexbox stuff. If you're like frantically trying to copy this, you do not have to. Just want to call that out. But I think seeing it get built and understanding why it works is good. So like this would be like the desktop behavior for something like this, that like as I make the screen bigger, it like keeps them apart and in the opposite corners. And so now all I got to do is make sure I grab the code that I generated with DevTools. So we're going to add that after the display flex. And now I don't have to be in the flex view. And that's doing a pretty good job overall. Hooray. It's going to look crazy on mobile because you should use a hamburger nav on mobile. We're just not going to worry about that in this moment because we can't take on everything all at once. Okay. Then, boop, boop, boop. I feel like the min height I gave it is too big. Should I make it less big? I think so. This is what I like about DevTools is I can change the values of things and just see it. I think that's probably better. I'm gonna change that. What line is that at? 22. 22. Yep, there it is. I changed this to like 160. Okay, cool. That's his minimum height. If it needs to get taller, it will. Sweet. Okay, so that covers backgrounds. We got linear gradient, we got image, we got color, and we got a linear gradient layered over an image to darken it. Make sense? Any questions about backgrounds? Any questions about Flexbox? Flexbox is really tricky at first, so do not feel bad if you don't understand it right away. It took me quite a while to get it, but I think using the DevTools thing makes it a lot easier. I wish Figma was better at doing Flexbox suggestions, but she's just not there yet. I'm actually curious. You know what? I haven't checked in a few months. I'm not going to be judgmental. Let's see what she has to say about something that very clearly could be using Flexbox. She has nothing to say. She has no idea what she's doing. Okay, that's what I thought. Sometimes she'll add a flex shrink, which I think is funny. All right. So the next thing that I would like to do. Boop, boop, boop. Let's talk about background. Typography. I already talked about layout. All right, it's currently 5:30. There's less than an hour left in this class, and we never took a break. How are you guys doing? I guess we kind of did a break in the middle. We front loaded the break while I took a meeting. But we're doing okay. We're feeling engaged, feeling interested in what's happening. Okay. I feel like you guys love a demo. Cool. Well, I'm glad. Love that for you. We'll talk a bit about, we'll do some font stuff, loading fonts. So I think I've shown it once before, but I feel like you might understand it a little bit better than you did first time around. And then even if you want to, I could throw it to questions and you guys can ask questions about stuff. What's up? To what, the logo? Oh, okay. So if your logo is an image, you're gonna try to, I would set it to be like, I'd give it a width. I'd do width colon, and then like, I usually do 120 as a starting point on a logo. It depends on the dimensions. Is your logo more wide or more tall? Maybe don't do 120 then. Maybe try it, start it off at like 70 or 80 pixels. And then when you do it, does it get stretched out? Hmm?
And it's the text.
You didn't see?
The text we run into the CSS page.
Oh, so I can show you what I did with the logo. Boop, boop. Okay, so in my file, I gave my logo an ID.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I went to my style sheet and I said hashtag logo to reference the ID. I have it with my header stuff because it's in the header. Like it's the style sheet's still going to work the same no matter how you label and comment things. Labeling and commenting them is for your sanity. Like I do it so I can find things more than anything else. But because my logo, I didn't make one. It's just a emoji. I had said it's font size, but since yours is an image, you'll do a width. Yeah, yeah. And it should from there work pretty similarly. Cool. Okay. As a review, before we start doing font stuff, if your font is from Google Fonts, you have to go on fonts.google.com. You have to go and find the font that you're using. I actually think in my Figma for this, I'm using different fonts than I currently am on the page. So we're going to go and get the font that I have here. What are you, font? What the hell is that? Okay. Properties. Will you tell me the font here? Yes. Okay. So I need to go find Gazok 1. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to search it in the search bar. The font I was using in Figma. Figma has Google Fonts in it, which makes our lives quite easy. I'm going to say get font. I am going to, oh, looks, this one's static, so I should have to pick weights, no? I guess it only has one weight, so that makes my life easy. I'm not going to use bagel fat one on the site. Also, I have no idea why it's showing me all my example text in what is presumably Korean. We're just not gonna take it on. It looks cool, but it's just not what I asked for. So I have my little kit. There's a font I added earlier called Inclusive Sans. This one's a variable font, so I don't have to pick weights. If you remember when Tim was here, we were talking a little bit about variable fonts. Variable fonts are a lot easier to control and you don't have to load as many files, which is pretty dope. While static fonts, you kind of have to pick and choose the weights, but if it's just a display font anyway, honestly, it doesn't really matter. So for my display font to be static, no problem. And then my paragraph text is variable, which is cool because I can do a lot with it if I need to without having to load any extra assets. I'm going to say get embed code. There's 2 steps I need to take. I need to hit copy code on this part here that says embed the code in the head of your HTML. Say copy code. And then I'm going to go back to my HTML file. And then here I have these link rel pre-connects. I'm going to put my font stuff right before my style sheet if I'm doing it this way. So I'm going to paste it there. Awesome. My only complaint is I don't like how this indented. So I'm going to press tab and indent it correctly. And so now I've pasted that stuff Google Fonts has given me. Boo-boo-doo. And then I have one more part I have to do, which is actually add font family rules into my CSS. So I'm going to first, now it's going to give you like a fake selector because it's trying its best to show you it in context. The only part you actually have to take is the font family rule. So I'm going to copy that because Inclusive Sans is going to be just like my regular font on most things that are not headings. I, in my style sheet, am going to add it in as my font family, either to you can do it on the all selector, like a little star. But I'm actually gonna add it to my body. I don't know why I added it to the star earlier. I like adding it my default font as my body font. So it'll then inherit to everything that is a part of my body. And then for my headers, so right now I'm using header 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to copy the display fonts font family argument. And I am going to leave this my global styles. And I'm going to do H1, well, that's in all caps. H1, comma H2, comma H3. And I don't think I'm using H4, but I'll put H4 too. And then I paste that in there. And you'll notice these always come with, after the font's name in quotes, comma, and then it will say sans serif or serif or cursive or something like that. Those are like the default fonts that are built into the browser. When Tim was here too, he was talking a bit about font stacks. This list can have as many things in it as you want. Like if I was like, well, I don't want it to go to my garbage browser sans serif that's not even that nice. I want it to be Helvetica Neue, or I want it to be Apple System. So I can do dash Apple System. And also you'll notice VS Code will like give you example font stacks. So you can go crazy and add a bunch of them. You only need to add just one fallback. But you can have 40 if you would like to. If you think for some reason your site's going to end up on the computer of somebody that has really slow internet, it can be a great act of kindness to add a lot of fonts to a font stack that are typically installed on people's computers, because that will help if your font won't load for whatever reason. But for your intents and purposes, like Google will just give you sans serif, serif, cursive, or monospace, like a code font. Like it'll try its best to match what would make sense. It's not always right, but that's what that's about. You can edit this. The only thing you can't edit is what's in the quotes after font family. It's very, very sensitive to it being typed incorrectly, or it'll lose its mind. Now, you've noticed me complain quite a lot about how every time I change this, I have to copy and paste it and on every single page, and it's pain in the ass. There is one other way to do this where you can manage your fonts entirely inside your CSS file and not have to do them at all from your HTML file. And in that case, if I was doing it that way, I would actually take away all these like link rels from Google Fonts. And then in Google Fonts, there's actually another way that gets listed. So you'll see first there's one that says link, and there's another one that says @import. And so you can use this @import version instead. I've never gotten it to work exactly as I would expect, just doing it straight out of here. What I normally do is I copy the link. See, this way is a little bit more convoluted, which is why I don't always show it as plan A, but I do like just all my CSS font stuff being in one spot as opposed to being in two files. So I usually will copy this link, and then I will go into my URL bar in my browser, and that did not give the right link. Let's try that again. Hello? Don't be a diva right now. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, and why is it my hater? Oh, because I copied the quote with it. Oh my God, it's very sensitive. So you can't have the quotes. It has to be just the URL. And what it will take you to is a CSS page. And what you can do with this CSS page is you can, in fact, find the like the language you need, which for us is just going to be Latin. So I search Latin on the page. And so I have to copy all the font face rules that have Latin in them because we use the Latin alphabet. Let's see if it's worth it in this case because it might be too much of a pain. Boop, 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 boop. Skedaddly down here. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's really not bad. So I'll do it. So I'm just gonna grab these font face arguments. And I'm gonna go to VS Code, my style sheet. I'm gonna make a section for it, and I usually do this at the top. Not loading. Nope. Okay. Can do that one, and then I'm gonna copy this one. Anything that's labeled as Latin or Latin extended. Because your site is probably not getting used in other countries, it's okay to ignore the other alphabets. If you wanted to use all the other alphabets, you could just copy all the font face rules on the whole page. If you have to support a lot of languages, I would say just using the other version that's in your HTML file might make more sense. just because it's a little bit more adaptable if the language is changed. But if you just want everything to be in your CSS file, this is another way to do it. And sometimes like you don't have access to the source HTML of the page, and doing it this way is the only way, which is why I felt like it's worth mentioning. And so this will yield, honestly, same exact result. It'll do the same thing as if you loaded it onto your HTML page. It's no different. It just puts it into it puts everything in one place in your CSS file, as opposed to scattering it across two locations. Like some people's brains really don't vibe with having to add the link rel pre-connect Google Fonts things to every single page. And they do better just doing their style sheet to every single page and then having the fonts managed at the top of the style sheet, which is, again, totally fine. No big deal. So now I'm doing it that way on this page, apparently. And so I can actually, because now I would have had to go through all my pages and edit these link rel pre-connects. I can actually just delete them on all my pages because now that's happening in my style sheet. Now I just don't have to deal with managing these 5 lines of code on every single page. So if I decide later I want to change what fonts I'm using, I can just edit it in my style sheet and not have to do it everywhere. You might be wondering, which one should I do? Whichever one makes more sense to you and that you like is the answer to that. Do whichever one you prefer. I think they both work perfectly nice. They perform really similarly. It's just like, what makes more sense to you? What do you prefer to do? So I think I got all these working now. When I go to other pages, this is broken because my markup is different in my head on different pages. We should change that. So if you notice too, this is like, again, of doing multi-page management. If I change the markup on the homepage and I don't change it anywhere else, the CSS applies differently on those pages. So in order to fix that, I have to go ahead and what I changed, I believe, oh, it was up until the H1, wasn't it? So I think the way here would be to go to my index, to copy my header, and then go through all my pages and replace my header. Oh, make sure you don't have duplicate tags because that would be embarrassing. And then I'm going to have to change what's in the H1 because links. And then I just delete the H1 out of that section. Like I'm changing the location of the H1. Boop, boop. Header. Gonna become skate parks. If I can spell it. Okay, and I'm just gonna highlight the header and replace it because my markup changed earlier. And then it's gonna be trails. Okay. Did I do all of them? I think I did. Best way to find out is to try using the site. Also, this looks crazy in how bold it is. Like it's like illegible compared to my Figma. Like I wonder what's up with that. Font. Maybe it's trying to make it bold because it's an H1. Font dash weight should be 400, I think. Oh yeah, that fixes it, I think. Let's look. Boop, boop. Yep. Okay, so I need to add to that one. I guess the user agent style automatically makes headings bold, but that font is already bold on its own in its regular state. So we're gonna add a line to after we call it and tell it to be font weight 400. 400 is like regular sized. And then, okay. This is starting to come together. I want to make sure I have time to take questions from folks. I think the only other thing I'm going to do before I call it for today is I'm just going to add some padding to my main because all the text is like touching the edge and that's really deeply irritating me. It's driving me crazy. And also Stanley feels crazy. So we're going to go, I have a header section here in the style sheet, a footer section. Why don't I add a main section? I'm just going to highlight that line and do command slash. And then I'll target main. Hello? Yeah, you pee in that diaper boy. All right, we're gonna add some padding. We're gonna add 20 pixels of padding. Ask me why it's 20 pixels. I don't know, I just picked a number. Okay, that looks great. Now it has some space around it. It looks a little bit less insane. Is there anything else about it that's like truly bothering you guys right now? I feel like for me, it's the images. I'll do that. So another thing that might be looking absolutely crazy right now is that your images are huge. And if you don't want them to be huge, you can target IMG and you can tell it max width 100%. And what telling it max with 100% does is it tells it to only get as big as the container that's holding it. Don't go outside of it. It's rude. And so now it'll automatically size them down to fit into the page. Mind you, are your layouts probably going to be different than just like these really basic one column layouts? Yeah, but like this is an example of just like building up from nothing and having a page that's like sort of decent without a ton of styling happening. Oh, I should do my footer too. It looks kind of crazy. We can center everything in it and give it some padding. Stanley. Yeah. So like example here would be, why the hell is this image so little? Why is he like that? What a weirdo. I can target it in the page. Boop, 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 ranks should be under skate time. I know Stanley. So I can add a class to it, or I can add an ID. I guess there's only one of it, so I could add an ID. It's preference, it doesn't really matter. I'll do class just because I want to demonstrate using classes more. So I could be like class equals skate time image. So I added ST image. And then I can pop on over to my style sheet and I can be like, I'd probably make another section for like ranks page, because that's getting more specific. And I do dot for class ST image. And I would say width. We're gonna try with 100% and see if that gets it to grow. Oh yeah, that did it. That's really blurry though. I had to do something about that, but I won't worry about it for now. But I can like pull specific images by using classes or IDs, and just like adding them to the HTML. That's a good question. And so like with my footer, if I want, like right now, everything in there is kind of just like all over the plot. So I can do padding 20 pixels and then do display. So padding 20 pixels will add some space around it. And then I can do display flex. We'll see where I land. It puts it all in a row. It's crazy work. We're gonna do flex direction column, and that'll stack them. Already looks less crazy. Maybe I want to let that return to top button sit in the middle. So I'll do, is it justify content? Let's find out. Nope. Maybe it's align items. It's always one of them. The tricky thing is what align items and justify content do when you switch the flex direction switches. And my brain cannot handle it. So that did it. So now my return to the top button's in the middle. And oh, when I click return to top, see it like does like a hard, it doesn't like smooth scroll there. The way to get it to smooth scroll is I have to add this to HTML tag for some reason, I think. If you set scroll behavior to smooth, that should do it. Yep, it's literally one line of CSS. Why that's not just a user agent style to make scrolling to IDs smooth is beyond me, but there we go. And like, I don't know, with like not too much effort, I got this with no background style sheet looking pretty decent, right? And like, that's just fonts, colors, and a little bit of layout and backgrounds. I want you guys to feel a little bit less intimidated by the coding part. It's, I promise, not that hard. And I will put this these files I'm working on, I will put them up on my GitHub and link them so you guys can look at them. So I think being able to reference demo files after a demo makes it a lot easier. Does anybody else have a question? Like, is there something that you're looking at my website or you've been following along, you're looking at your website, you're like, this is really bothering me, I want to fix it right now. Anyone else got anything? So I've also been talking for quite a long time. My screen share. Got 9 people in the Zoom. Does anybody in the Zoom have questions? Go away. Madison doesn't have questions. Okay. Cool. Well, I think I am going to spend the rest of the last half hour we have here just going around visiting people, see what they got. Jasmine has lots of questions, so if you guys don't have questions, you can feel free to hop off the call. I'll let the recording render, and I'll also add the one from last class. I realized I forgot to do that. Hope you all have a good day. Like, comment, subscribe if you're a recording watcher. Bye.